I'm Geraldine. I'm the owner of Heart Connection, and I also run a business called Alchemy of Men. So I'm a kinesiologist, and I specialise in working with childhood trauma, anxiety, depression, and I present retreats for healing.
For men and women?
For men and women, yes.
So explain what's your process is like from the aspect of the body keeps score and that kind of not having to relive the trauma to heal.
Well, I guess when you're working with the subconscious as opposed to the conscious mind. So the conscious mind is pretty much talk therapy. So when we talk about something, we're using a part of the brain that is really only 10% of how we think and feel, and it's short-term memory. So when we're working with the subconscious is 80% of how we think and feel. It manages how we breathe, our body temperature, and it also has all our reactions and emotions on how we respond to things. So when we're working with the subconscious and the body somatically, we can make permanent change. Yeah, so we're starting to work with those neural pathways that are created as a young age. So a lot of the trauma and the reactions that we have are basically triggered from our childhood experiences.
So when we were doing the interviews a couple of weeks ago, every single woman broke down sharing their story. Tell me about your experience with domestic violence. Let's start with that.
Okay, so as a child, I experienced domestic violence. My dad was violent towards my mum, and we left in the middle of the night and went into emergency homes. Went into a caravan to start with, and then went into an emergency home in Adelaide. And I guess for me, that was probably, at the time I didn't really understand it, but my memories are quite traumatic about those moments. And I suffered a lot from childhood trauma until I was about 35, and then I started to study kinesiology. And before that, I'd done lots of counselling, didn't work, just kept re-traumatising me. So when I started to study kinesiology, I started to find a pathway forward, and over the last 18 years have been working with clients one-on-one and in group settings, and basically developed a program that works. So developing a program where a lot of people would tell me what was wrong with me. I had fear of abandonment, I had, pretty much fear of everything, and lots of anxiety and trauma and self-hatred, negative thoughts, and I wanted to create something that was practical, because people will tell you what's wrong with you but not actually what to do about it. So they wouldn't tell me what to do in the moments when I was triggered and reacting and having those emotions come up, like you said, or getting angry, or just really seeing the world quite differently. Yeah, so I guess that became my life's work.
As one of your clients who is walking proof of your magic and your process, I can attest to you healing my childhood trauma. So I'd just like to say thank you.
You're welcome.
So the girl dinner camps, we've got these, we're going to do our first one in May. And just walk us through how you would custom design that for the women, because you said it's a personal healing journey for every woman.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work in small groups, so anywhere between 12 and 15 women or men, and before they come to the retreat, they fill out a form, but I also speak to them direct to find out exactly what are the key points that they're dealing with. So whether that's sexual abuse, domestic violence, there's a whole range of emotional triggers that could be there, or even things that they're experiencing right now, like they might be having breakdowns in relationships, they might be struggling with their kids, those types of things. Once I've got an understanding of what that is, then I tailor the content to them.
Fantastic.
So, and it's very organic. So my content that I work with has got a basic structure of some tools that we want you to learn and grow with. But basically, the conversations or the pathway to healing is organic. So we start with the tools, and that brings things up for people, not in a way that you might imagine. So we're not re-traumatizing, but we're acknowledging that there is trauma there. So we're acknowledging there's pain in the body. And we start to feel into the body. Where are we storing the pain? And you mentioned that book, The Body Keeps Score, which is an amazing book, and there's some other ones as well that I've worked with. But when people start to understand that emotional pain is not just out here, it's actually in the body as well. So we kind of use the body as a pathway to actually identify where it is and what it is. And once we learn what it is, everything is energy. We'll go into a bit more about that later, but everything is energy. So really emotion and trauma is just energy that wants to leave the body. And if we give that energy a pathway to leave, then the actual trauma leaves as well. And I know that you, Irene, have had the experience where you actually have had some of those experiences, and then a couple of days later you still have the memory of the trauma, but you don't have that emotional response or that charge that happens every time you try and speak about it, or every time you try and be heard. You're able to speak about it but not have the emotional charge or the trauma that is pretty much controlling your life.
You said something profound to me the last treatment. You said, stop letting your 6-year-old show up.
Control the situation.
Yeah, control the situation. And that really rocked my world, because a really traumatic event happened at 6. So, and now it's like I'm calmer. I don't need that story anymore. So flipping the script is a key part, I think, of the healing.
Yeah, a lot of my work is based on not ignoring the negative. So in our society, we ignore our emotions. Anything that's negative, we're moving away from it. We want to be happy. We want to, get up that line. We want to live in a beautiful house. We want to make more money. We want to be happy. But often what happens is to be happy, we think we need to get rid of the negative, ignore it, make it go away. Take a pill, make it go away. But we don't understand that our emotions are valid and they're there for a reason. So grief is valid, anger is valid, it's there for a reason. So it's not about ignoring it, it's just about giving it a new pathway with a new tool to be able to move through that. And once we do that, then we can then be happy. The wave of energy is the polarity. So if you look at a wave, you've got the highest point, which is your positive experience, and the lowest point, which is your negative experience. And they're on the same wave of energy. So if we ignore the negative or reject the negative, we cross out the whole vibrational frequency. So once we start to give the negative a voice, it's not that we're never going to have anxiety. It's not that we're never going to get depressed or sad or angry. It's what we do in the moment. So if we can change how we feel and have a choice to change that anger in 5 minutes and then have a great day for the rest of the day, that is pretty much the healing. It's not about getting to a point where I'm never going to be angry again. We are going to be angry. We're human beings. But what we do need to learn is how to work with our emotions differently and not fear them.
There was a theme that came up with 3 of the women that said that when their men got healing, the violence stopped. So can you tell me a bit more about your men's healing camps?
Well, I'll just go back to your statement. When men or women get angry, it is just pain projected outwards. Okay, the same way that a child will have a tantrum and throw a toy. Okay, so it feels uncomfortable in the body and we project it outwards to whoever is around. And depending on how big that pain is, it, I guess, determines how that goes. The other aspect of that is it's a learned behaviour. So we're talking generational patterns here. So if you have men who saw their fathers be violent or their grandfathers be violent, then as a child we learn that that's how we release the energy of anger. We hit out. Yeah. So it's about really understanding that when we heal the pain, there's no reason to hit out. So that's why the change happens. So there's an understanding that happens that I can go and release my pain in a different way, and then you have choice whether you do actually then hit out or not.
Wow. So just toolkits, processing, toolkits.
Well, there's healing that has to happen as well.
Yeah.
So, I guess, a lot of men specifically have been told to suck it up. To, men don't cry, men don't talk about emotions, men don't, it's not acceptable. They are to be tough. And it's in that we're suppressing it, and suppressing all that emotion, it gets stuck in the body. Okay, it comes out in neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, all of these types of things. So, and then something triggers it. So, you know, they might have a car crash, road rage, they come home, they get triggered, and the energy needs to come out, and they have no tools to be able to release it. Now, I teach men that there's a couple of tools that they can do on the way home from work to release all that energy of anger, and then when they get home, they can make the shift from whatever's happened in the day to where they are with their families, and that makes a huge difference as well. So it is a combination of learning new tools, but there is also healing that has to happen. We need to identify the pain that was there, not reject it, not avoid it, not pretend it, not put it under the mat, but just acknowledge that it's there, and we need to release some of that pain first. So that's what we do on the retreats. We actually do a rite of passage, and we do this for the women as well. The content is the same, it's just delivered slightly differently. But the rite of passage is really about identifying the key points in your childhood that were traumatic, and acknowledge them and loving them and not rejecting them. So giving them the tools, letting them be heard, letting them be seen, and releasing the energy in that space. It only takes a few minutes. Releasing energy is not a long, drawn-out process. It doesn't have to take months and years to heal. You can actually heal a lot of things in just a short time with the right tools. So I guess for the retreats and the transformation that happens, once they actually do the healing, then they go back and practice the tools. So this is the same as going to the gym. It's not different. It's just that we're practicing emotional tools and not physical tools.
So we're building an app. It's for identifying, you know, people who might be someone you want to avoid in a relationship, and maybe in business, you know, like based on, you know, peer reviewed and facts. Mm-hmm. But also what we want to do is give them the toolkit. Like a lot of these modalities to help them heal is behind a paywall. Part of my certification is whatever I build, I need to give it away. Yep. So that's why we're making the app free.
Yep.
What you do, and you say that you give them the toolkits, would you be able to build that into the app in a process that they could do post doing a retreat?
The reason we do a retreat is because it kind of fast tracks everything.
Right.
Okay, so it's a journey from start to finish. So we need to, you know, when people come on retreat, they've really not done very much at all. So we need to kind of understand where it's being held in the body, how to calm your nervous system, heal some of that childhood pain. And then the next aspect of that is about having boundaries, you know, when you're talking about those people, bullying, childhood bullying, things like that. We carry all of this into adult relationships. So even when I work with kids, but also with adults, bullying is just not having boundaries. So you've still got the pain from whatever they're experiencing at home being projected outwards, but boundaries is about understanding that the person is in pain and not taking it personally. It's when we take it personally, we then activate that pain within ourselves as well. So that's where the negative self-beliefs come from when people are bullied. I'm not good enough, all of those types of things, and that can be very dangerous because, you know, those negative self-beliefs can lead to suicide and things like that. So when we do a lot of talk about boundaries, we're talking energetic boundaries, not physical boundaries. You know, we learn self-defense. We don't want somebody to come and punch us, even though that happens. We're talking about energy boundaries, like not taking it personally when someone says, I hate you, and realizing that person is projecting their pain, not yours. Then the app will be fantastic because it'll be a great reminder on what to do in certain situations. You could just go to it, it'll remind you of what you've already learned. What happens when we learn something, as soon as we get triggered, we forget it. Okay, because you're going into survival mode, a different thing happens in your body, different hormones get activated, and that default pattern, that response, gets activated. So you might still yell or whatever, maybe to varying degrees, maybe not as bad as before, but it's still a default pattern. When you've got an app to remind you, that's going to be fantastic because it's about understanding that you haven't gone all the way back to the start. You actually can still make those changes at any part of the process. Yeah.
Applying it in different situations.
Yeah, absolutely, and just reminding you to do that, yeah.
It's the book Atomic Habits, right? You do something every day and it builds a muscle and then it becomes an automatic. We're going to get you to record some positive that you worked on with me that really helped me with my boundaries and made me feel safe.
Yeah, because healing is a practice.
Yeah.
Okay, like if you've got a reaction or a default reaction on how you react when somebody looks at you a certain way or says something, or you feel attacked, if you yell or withdraw, whatever that is, that's your default pattern. Okay, and you might be 30, 40 years old. You've got 40 years of that pattern being activated. Okay, so when you want to change that, it's going to basically do the healing, but when you do the practice, 3-4 months is a really short time to change that. And then that will become your natural response after a short period of time. But for something that's been there for 30 years, 3 months is a very short time to practice something new. Yeah.
I think what I found so powerful after your treatment was you got me to anchor in my new mantras with essential oils.
Yes.
3 different essential oils that really helped me, especially the one that's from tree sap. What's that one called?
Copaiba.
Copaiba.
Yeah, Copaiba is amazing. It calms the nervous system.
It's like you're hugging a tree.
Yeah.
Like it's not...
It actually comes from inside the tree. It's not from the outside of the tree, yeah.
And then it's frankincense.
Yeah, frankincense is the oil of truth, which is amazing.
And it's really good for heart chakra healing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the air, like the air one with the peppermint, really interrupting my state.
Yes.
Like I studied neuro-linguistic programming with Anthony Robbins.
Yep.
And that's why I knew, like even though cognitively I was just doing everything you told me to do, but like after 4 months, it's like my brain I could interrupt my state within 30 seconds of using one of those 3 essential oils when I was out. Even if my brain couldn't function in any other way, I interrupted my state with an essential oil. So that's what I love about, because that's an anchor.
And that's what we're doing. We're interrupting the current process with some new tools.
Yeah.
So as soon as you interrupt the stress response, then your body's going to have a different reaction. And you have more choice once you start to change those patterns, yeah. But it takes a little bit of practice.
What if the mental health crisis exists because we followed the wrong guy? In modern psychology, there were 2 major voices, Freud and Adler. Guess which one we built an entire industry around? In Freud's model, everything's about your childhood, your parents, your trauma. You're broken because of what happened to you, and healing means going back and reliving every moment. Adler, he didn't ignore the past, but he said it's not the main thing. What really matters, your beliefs, your goals, your sense of meaning. He believed healing came from taking responsibility, creating connection, and building purpose in the now. But we didn't follow Adler, we followed Freud. Because Freud's model made it easy to build a business around therapy that keeps you talking year after year. It feels like healing, but nothing actually changes. You explain your patterns, you analyze your wounds, but you stay stuck. What we need is Adler's model. We need to reprogram your subconscious with forward-focused beliefs, not to stay stuck in the past.